Picture this. You're sitting in a therapist's office. Third session. Beige walls, box of tissues on the side table, that fake plant in the corner that's supposed to make the room feel alive. Your wife is next to you, close enough to touch. You've been doing this for 3 weeks because she asked you to. Because you love her. Because 9 years in, you still show up. The therapist asks about conflict resolution. Your wife tilts her head, that careful, rehearsed tilt she's been doing since her friend got divorced and started sending her articles. She looks at the therapist, not at you, and says, "When he hugs me after an argument, that's textbook trauma bonding." The therapist pauses. You feel your hand on her knee. You didn't even realize you'd put it there. Reflex. 9 years of reflex. You pull it back. She doesn't notice. That was my wife. My therapist's office. My hand. My name is Alvin Lattimore, and that was the last time I ever reached for Della. I need you to understand something about me. I'm not a man who falls apart. I ran a logistics software company in Fort Worth for 11 years. Built it from a laptop in our spare bedroom. Managed 30 employees, handled million-dollar contracts, sat across from clients who tried to squeeze me on every deal. I don't shake. I don't crumble. I show love by being there, present, steady, constant. Della knew that when she married me. She used to say it was her favorite thing. "You're my anchor," she'd tell me, her head against my chest on Sunday mornings. That was year 2. By year 9, the anchor was something she wanted to cut loose. 3 months before that therapy session, my biggest client pulled out. Took 40% of my revenue with them. The company went under. I handled it the way I handle everything, quietly, methodically, without dragging anyone else into the wreckage. Filed the paperwork. Closed the office. Came home. Della's response came through the wall. Speakerphone. Juul Vickers, her college roommate, freshly divorced, full of opinions and clinical vocabulary she'd picked up like souvenirs from someone else's wreckage. I heard Della say, maybe if he'd spent less time clinging to me and more time saving his company. I stood in the hallway, listened to them laugh. Then I went to the kitchen and made dinner. That's who I am. I don't react. I absorb. I keep going. But absorbing is not the same as not feeling. I felt every word. I just didn't let it change what I did. Not yet. The therapy was Della's idea. After Juul's divorce, Della came back with a new vocabulary. Boundaries. Trauma response. Love bombing. She dropped these words into ordinary conversations like landmines. I'd bring her coffee in the morning. That's love bombing, Alvin. I'd rub her shoulders while she watched TV. I need you to respect my space. I'd hold her hand at the grocery store. Apparently, that was pathological too. But I went to therapy. Because she asked. Because 9 years meant something to me. And then she called my hug a clinical disorder. In front of a stranger. With a straight face. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't argue. I didn't tell the therapist that Della had learned the word trauma bonding from a woman whose own marriage ended because she couldn't stop picking fights. I didn't point out that Juul Vickers had become Della's entire personality over the last 6 months. I just pulled my hand back. And I never put it there again. That night, I lay in bed next to Della. She scrolled her phone. I stared at the ceiling. She said good night without looking up. I said it back. No hug. No hand on her hip. No kiss on her shoulder. She didn't notice. Wednesday morning. Early March. I called Zora Jessup. Zora's been my closest friend since college. Runs a restaurant chain now, 3 locations across Fort Worth. She's the kind of person who notices when you go quiet. You sound flat, she said. I'm fine. Alvin, you called me at 7 a.m. You never call before 9. What happened? I told her about the therapy session. Not all of it. Just the line. Trauma bonding. Zora was quiet for 5 seconds. Then, I'm sending you a name. Elaine Yates. Family attorney. Don't argue with me. I'm not arguing. Good. Call her today. I called Elaine that afternoon. Sat in my car in a parking lot off Camp Bowie Boulevard. The radio was on. Something about a congressional runoff in Georgia. Who was replacing who? I turned it off. Didn't need background noise for this conversation. The consultation was 30 minutes. I told her about the marriage, the business folding, the therapy. She listened without interrupting, and I mean not one word until I was done. When I finished, she asked one question. Do you want to save it? I wanted to. Past tense. Then let's make sure you're protected when you're ready. Come in Friday and bring your financial records. What kind of timeline are we looking at? That depends on her. But I want you to start documenting. Save messages, note conversations, Keep a record of her schedule and yours. Not to use against her, to protect yourself if she decides to rewrite history. I thanked her and hung up. Sat in the car for 10 minutes watching people walk in and out of a coffee shop. Normal lives. Normal Wednesday. I drove home. Della was leaving for yoga, her Tuesday through Thursday class that had expanded to 4 nights a week. Yoga, pottery, book club, something on Saturdays she called creative writing circle. Home by 10. Straight to bed. No conversation. I'll be back late, she said, keys already in her hand. Okay. She paused at the door, looked at me, waiting for something, the usual drive safe or love you. I looked back. Neutral. Steady. She left. That was the beginning of it. Not dramatic. Not loud. I didn't slam anything or make a speech. I just stopped reaching. She said my touch was a disorder, so I treated it like one. Stopped. Completely. Thursday. No good morning kiss. No hand on her back when I passed her in the kitchen. Friday. Same. Saturday morning. She was making coffee. I came in, poured my own, sat at the table. She stood there holding her mug, watching me. You seem quiet, she said. Just tired. You sure? I'm sure. She called Juul that afternoon. I heard her through the bedroom door. He's finally respecting my space. I think the therapy's actually working. That line should have hurt. It didn't. I was past hurt. I was in that place where you realize the person you married isn't confused, she's certain. Certain that your love is a disease and her friend's diagnosis is the cure. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I moved through the house like a man sharing an apartment with a polite stranger. Present. Functional. Hollow. She didn't notice for 2 weeks. Let that land. 14 days. No touch. No I love you. No reaching across the couch. No pulling her close. No hand on her knee in the car. 14 days, and she called it growth. Week 2. I moved to the guest room. Told her it was for her comfort. She'd mentioned once that my presence at night made her feel hyper-vigilant. Jules' word, of course. That's actually really mature, Della said when I moved my pillow. I thought so. But something shifted. She booked a 4th evening class. And now, every time she left the house, she called from the front door, Alvin, I'm heading out. Waiting. Listening. Not for permission, for proof that I was still there. I always answered. Always neutral. Always exactly what she asked for. That Saturday, Zora stopped by unannounced. She does that. Shows up with takeout when she senses something's off. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, chopsticks in hand, watching me eat without tasting. When's the last time you laughed? She asked. I thought about it. Couldn't find the answer. That's what I thought, Zora said. You called Elaine yet? Had a consultation. Going back Friday. Good. Don't wait for it to get worse, Alvin. Don't be noble about this. I'm not being noble. I'm being tired. I know. That's what scares me. Week 3. Wednesday night. This is the part that stayed with me. Della made pasta, which she hadn't done in months. Set the table. 2 plates. Candles she found in the back of the junk drawer, the ones from some anniversary I barely remembered. She opened a bottle of wine. Set out the good napkins, the cloth ones her mother gave us. I sat down. She sat across from me. Smiled. Not the performative smile from the therapy sessions, something underneath it. Something that looked almost like the woman I married. I made your favorite, she said. The penne with the roasted garlic. Looks good. We ate. She talked about her day, her coworker's promotion, the spring fundraiser she was coordinating at work. Normal conversation. No clinical terms. No boundaries talk. Just 2 people eating dinner. Halfway through, she reached across the table and touched my arm. Light. Careful. Her fingertips on my wrist. I shifted my arm away. Picked up my water glass. Her face changed. Not anger, confusion. Deep confusion. Like pressing a key on a piano and hearing nothing. What was that? She said. What was what? You pulled away from me. I'm respecting your boundaries, Della. I didn't. I wasn't. That wasn't a boundary. You said physical touch was a trauma response. I'm making sure I don't trigger one. She stared at me. The candles flickered between us. For a second, just a second, I saw something in her eyes that made my chest tighten. Fear. Real fear. Not of me. Of what she'd done. And I almost broke. Almost reached for her hand. Almost said something soft. 9 years of reflex is hard to kill. But then I remembered the therapist's office. Her voice, steady and certain. Textbook trauma bonding. Like she'd rehearsed it. Like Juul had coached her on the delivery. I didn't reach. The pasta's good, I said. Thank you. She didn't eat another bite. That night, 2 a.m., I heard her laptop open in the master bedroom. Blue glow under the door. She was searching. Husband emotionally distant after therapy. Partner stopped showing affection. Is my husband withdrawing on purpose? I found the search history later. The answers she found probably told her what she wanted to hear. They usually do. Stay with me here, because this is where it turns. Week 4. Saturday afternoon. Della called Juul. Speaker on. Volume up. I was in the kitchen peeling an orange, and I heard every word. He's doing this on purpose, Della said. Withholding affection is a form of abuse too. I read about it. Juul's voice, sharp and certain, absolutely. That's a control tactic. Classic emotional withholding. He's punishing you for setting healthy boundaries. But last night I tried to. I touched his arm, and he pulled away. See? That's retaliation. He can't handle that you're growing as a person. I stood at the counter. Orange peel curling between my fingers. Same touch. First it was the problem. Now its absence was the problem. The label changed. I didn't. That's the part that burned. Not her cruelty. I could handle cruelty. It was the moving target. Hug her, trauma bonding. Stop hugging, emotional withholding. Be present, smothering. Be distant, abandonment. Every move had a diagnosis. Every diagnosis made me the problem. And Juul Vickers was the one writing the prescriptions. The next Wednesday, Della tried again. Different approach. She came into the guest room while I was reading. Sat on the edge of the bed. Didn't say anything for a while. Then, I miss you. 2 words. And they sounded real. Not Juul's vocabulary, not therapy speak. Just Della. My Della. The one who used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest. I put the book down. Looked at her. What do you miss? This. Us. Talking. I miss you being in our room. You told me my presence made you hyper-vigilant. I didn't mean. That was a bad word choice. Was it your word or Juul's? She flinched. Physically flinched. Like I'd touched a nerve she didn't know was exposed. Does it matter? It matters to me. She looked at her hands. Twisted her wedding ring. And for a moment, I want to be honest about this, I thought she meant it. I thought maybe the real Della was sitting in front of me, trying to find her way back through all the terminology and the coaching and the labels. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Juul. She picked it up. Right there, sitting on my bed. In the middle of the most honest conversation we'd had in months, she picked up Juul's call. Hey, yeah, no, just 1 second. She covered the mic. Looked at me. I'll be right back. She never came back. I heard her in the master bedroom for an hour. Laughing. Talking. The Della I knew for 30 seconds was gone. The one who came back was wearing Juul's armor again. That was the second time I almost believed her. There wasn't a third. I told Zora about it the next morning. We met at one of her restaurants before opening. Empty dining room. Chairs still upside down on the tables. Coffee she brewed herself in the back. She said she misses me. Right before she picked up Juul's call. Zora set her cup down. Let me ask you something. In the last 6 months, how many conversations has Della had with you that lasted longer than the ones she has with Juul? I thought about it. Really thought. The answer sat in my chest like a stone. None. That's not a marriage, Alvin. That's a subscription she forgot to cancel. That's harsh. That's honest. You've been showing up for 9 years. Cooking, touching, reaching, holding. And she's been outsourcing her opinion of you to a woman who thinks all husbands are the enemy. At some point, you have to ask, who is she actually married to? You or Juul? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Zora reached across the table and put her hand on mine. I let her. Because some people's touch isn't a diagnosis. Call Elaine, she said. Stop waiting. I already did. Good. Then stop hoping too. That was the hardest thing anyone said to me through all of it. Not Della's labels. Not Juul's commentary. Zora, in an empty restaurant at 7 in the morning, telling me to stop hoping. Week 5. I started spending evenings at the 24-hour diner off I-30. Orange booths. TV over-the-counter tuned to news nobody watched. The Fox settlement was playing that week. Anchors talking about defamation deals and court agreements with careful, practiced voices. I wasn't watching. Just needed a room that didn't feel like a test I was failing. The waitress, name tag said Selma, learned my order fast. Black coffee, pecan pie. She never asked questions. Just refilled the cup and left the check face down. 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Phone buzzed. Della, where are you? I typed back. Out. The same word she'd given me for months. Every night she was at yoga, pottery, book club, out. One syllable. Now I was using it. And she suddenly needed GPS coordinates. 3 dots on my screen. Disappeared. Appeared. When will you be back? Late. She didn't text again. But when I came home at midnight, light under the master bedroom door, she was awake. Waiting. For the man who used to come home and reach for her. You know that moment when you realize someone's been reaching for an empty chair? Tuesday evening. Real rain now, the kind Fort Worth gets in early spring, sudden and cold, turning the streets the color of old concrete. I was on that bench again, watching people pass under umbrellas. Della found me. She'd been driving around, looking, though she never admitted it. She pulled over, got out with an umbrella, stood next to the bench. I didn't look up. Alvin. Nothing. Alvin, it's raining. Come home. I know it's raining. She stood there. Rain on the umbrella like static on an old radio. Then she crouched down, tried to catch my eyes. And that's when it hit her. Not gradually, like glass breaking. I wasn't angry. I wasn't punishing. I wasn't staging some dramatic exit. I was just gone. Whatever was inside me that reached for her, that brought her coffee and rubbed her shoulders and held her hand at the grocery store like a teenager, she'd named it, shamed it, diagnosed it, and it died. What's happening to us? She whispered. You got what you asked for. She drove home alone. Bus stop bench. Rain on my shoulders. Jacket heavy. I sat there until the last bus came and went. Wasn't waiting for it. Just needed a place where nobody was diagnosing me for sitting still. Then I walked back. Here's where the story takes a turn I didn't see coming. What happened next, I pieced it together afterward. Della started looking. Not for answers, for evidence. She went through my phone while I was in the shower. Nothing. No texts. No dating apps. No calls to anyone she didn't recognize. She checked my email, Zora's restaurant thread, a confirmation for an oil change, a Costco receipt. She searched my car. Glove box, center console, under the seats. Clean. Then she went to my desk, the one in the spare bedroom I used as an office after the company closed. She wasn't looking for legal papers. She was looking for proof of another woman. Something that would explain why I turned off. Something she could name, diagnose, fight. There was no other woman. What she found was a manila folder. Unlabeled. Inside, screenshots. Dozens of them. Text messages between Della and Juul, spanning 6 months. Her own words. Printed out. Organized by date. He tried to hold my hand at the grocery store like a teenager. I told him physical touch isn't a love language. It's a trauma response. Juul, I swear if he brings me flowers again, I'm going to scream. He hugged me after I told him about the promotion. I literally had to peel him off me. He made dinner and put a note on my plate. Who does that? We've been married 9 years, not 9 weeks. He tried to slow dance in the kitchen last night. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. Juul, seriously, what is wrong with him? He left a voicemail saying he just wanted to hear my voice. We live in the same house. Page after page. Every joke at my expense. Every eye roll turned into entertainment. Every gesture I made out of love, cataloged, mocked, sent to a woman who treated her own marriage like a hostage situation she'd escaped. At the bottom of the folder, a consultation receipt. Elaine Yates, family law, dated the day after the therapy session. I came home and found Della sitting at my desk. The folder in her lap. Pages spread across the surface like evidence in a courtroom. Eyes red, hands shaking. She picked up the folder, carried it to the kitchen, set it on the table between us, sat down, looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before, not anger, not hurt. Recognition. You've been planning this since that session? I sat across from her. Calm. The kind of calm that comes from being empty for 5 weeks. You told a stranger that my love was a clinical disorder. So I stopped. And you didn't notice for 2 weeks. I was setting boundaries. You set a boundary around everything, Della. There was nothing left inside it. That's not. I was trying to protect myself. From what? From me making dinner? From me holding your hand? From me writing a note on your plate? I kept my voice level. Not loud. Not strained. Just facts. Tell me what you were protecting yourself from. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I asked you 3 times in 3 months. When I asked it okay to touch you. 3 separate conversations. And every time you said, I don't know, I need time. That wasn't an answer, Della. That was a lock with no key. Juul said, I know what Juul said. I've read every word. I looked at the folder. The question is, Did you ever disagree with her? Once. About anything? Did you ever read one of those texts back and think, maybe my husband bringing me flowers isn't a trauma response? Maybe it's just a man who loves me? The refrigerator hummed. Outside, headlights from a passing car swept across the ceiling and vanished. I'll go back to therapy, she said, voice cracking. Not the controlled crack from the counselor's office. The real one. I'll go alone this time. Without Juul. I'll fix this. I slid the folder across the table. These are yours. Read them. Then tell me what there is to fix. She looked down at the pages. Her own annotations in the margins, smiley faces, LOL. Exactly. In purple pen next to the text about peeling me off her. Evidence of a woman who'd turned her husband's love into content for her college roommates' group chat. You mocked every gesture I ever made, I said. Not to my face, that I could handle. Behind my back. To a woman who told you your marriage was a cage. And you laughed, Della. For 6 months, you laughed. She was crying now. Not the controlled tears from therapy. Not the ones calibrated for witnesses. These were the messy kind. The kind that come when there's nobody left to perform for and nobody left to blame. I didn't mean it. I was just venting. You were venting about my love being pathetic. For 6 months. To a woman whose answer to every marriage problem is a match and a can of gasoline. I love you, Alvin. I know you think you do. Read those texts and ask yourself what that word means to you. Because to me, love means you don't mock someone for trying to slow dance in the kitchen. She wiped her face, straightened in the chair, and I watched it happen, the shift. Juul's programming kicking in under pressure. You went through my phone, she said. You printed my private conversations. That's a violation of my privacy. You diagnosed my hugs in front of a therapist. That was a violation of something too. We just don't have a clinical term for it. That's different. How? I was expressing my feelings in a safe space, and I was reading yours. Turns out your safe space was 6 months of telling your friend that loving you was something to be ashamed of. She went quiet. The fight drained out of her as fast as it arrived. And what was underneath, I hadn't seen it in years. Not anger, not defiance. Just a woman sitting in the rubble of something she'd demolished one text at a time without realizing the building was still occupied. What do you want me to do? She asked. Small voice. Smaller than I'd ever heard from her. I don't want you to do anything, Della. That's the whole point. I stopped wanting. You taught me how. I stood up. Put my coffee cup in the sink. Rinsed it. Where are you going? She whispered. Guest room. Alvin, please, read the folder, Della. I walked down the hall. Closed the door. Sat on the edge of the bed. Hands on my knees. House quiet around me. Close to midnight. I heard her on the phone. Crying. The rhythm of desperation, gasping, questions that need to be told you're still the good one in the story. Juul's voice carried through the wall, loud and certain as always. This is classic. He's punishing you for having boundaries. You need to stand your ground, Della. Don't let him. Click. Della hung up. Mid-sentence. The house went silent. The kind of silence that has weight to it, the kind you feel behind your ribs. Sometime after 1 a.m., footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside my door. Her shadow stretched under the gap, thin and still. She stood there for a long time. I could hear her breathing. She didn't knock. Eventually the shadow moved away. The master bedroom door closed. Springs settling around a single body. First time in 9 years, nobody on the other side of that bed. Nobody to reach for. Nobody to pull away from. She called my touch a disorder. Turns out the cure is just an empty room. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.